Hey everybody, this is Devin Townsend and you are watching CMS TV. I'll tell you what my only concerns are. My only concerns. And I'm fortunate that I have, a management team and a group of people at the studio and, a great agent and great label. So there's a lot of real practical needs for things to be at least viable on an economic scale. But really, the only reason for me for that to be of any importance is because I want to keep going.
Okay.
I don't care if it sells 1 million copies. I don't care if it gets 10 million views. But I care in the sense that I don't want to stop.
It is Chris Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin. And today on the show, we are talking to one of the, I'm going to, even beyond music, I'm going to say one of the greatest musical minds in the business, just because this guy knows how to take an idea or a concept and blow it up in ways that nobody can imagine. He's done that once again with his brand new release called The Moth, which I've got a ton of questions about. He is the great Devin Townsend. Devin, how are you, sir?
That was one of the best overviews of what I do of any interview I've had, man. Taking ideas and blowing them up to ridiculous proportions might just be my MO, man.
Well, it is kind of what you do. I mean, and obviously, I'm a metalhead first and foremost. My intro to you was obviously a zillion years ago with Vi, but of course, City is still one of my top 3 albums of all time. I listen to it at least once a month. It's just that good.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that one too, man. I mean, it's like, and even at the time, it's funny, that same description sort of plays into what we did with Strapping.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I think as the career has progressed, just my track record has made it such that I can convince more suckers to help me out.
Do you feel like you've changed musically? I mean, obviously the music has changed from there to there, but is that because you've changed, or is it because you have different ideas in different places that you want to explore?
The music hasn't changed. The music style has changed, but the intent for the music is the same. And I think the difference now and why it is so, Moth versus SYL or whatever, it's just because the nature of how I write has been the thing that has not changed, and that has been I find something that is compelling, and that's the only impetus to write. I have zero interest in picking up the guitar or writing music if I have no compelling concept. Zero. I don't touch it for months on end if I have no concept. But then as soon as I do, I'm like, okay, so now so I remember Strapping. I remember when I first started doing Strapping, I had not done, the industrial thrash stuff prior to that. And I remember Byron at the time, when he first heard the demos, he was like, man, for a guy that's never played that style of music, it's like, that's really heavy. And this was before heavy is a really heavy thing. And I remember being like, oh, okay, if that's the case, if we took this cat and we did this aesthetic and we used this engineer, and we could take this seed of an idea and make it into this big thing. So just the reasons for doing that back then were hate or love or death, or the big concepts that you're sort of dealing with in your early 20s. But dude, you're 55. It's a lot more nuanced. It's like the things that are creatively compelling to me at this age, or they're just more I guess not even subtle. That seems like. It implies a type of importance to it, but just more idiosyncratic,
Mm-hmm. Sure. Let me ask you this, Devin, and we will get right into the Moth here in a second. But for you personally, and this is for your whole career, I'm talking about, not any specific album or band or phase. Where is your level of caring about commerce versus creativity? It seems to me you're very focused in creativity, and again, this is outside looking in. Tell me I'm completely wrong, but it seems like you're focused solely on creativity, and you really don't give a damn what it does as far as a commerce project, because you're exploring what you want to say.
I'll tell you what my only concerns are. My
Okay.
only concerns, and I'm fortunate that I have, a management team and a group of people at the studio, and a great agent and great label. Like, so there's a lot of real practical needs for things to be at least viable on an economic scale. But really, the only reason for me for that to be of any importance is because I want to keep going.
Okay.
Like, I don't care if it sells 1 million copies. I don't care if it gets 10 million views. But I care in the sense that I don't want to stop.
Right.
And I got a family and I've got a staff, and so there are practical needs for these things to go. But I've got some friends that are colleagues of mine that are involved with similar genre, and they're looking for things to come out of that, whether or not it's material items for their life, or they're interested in money, or they're interested in the validation that comes from fame. And that's all cool. It's just not where my interests lie. My interests are often compromised by the things that commerce brings. Like, the more successful you get, the less easy it is to go grocery shopping or things like that. And so much of what makes the work effective in my mind is that it's insular. I'm in my own head when I'm writing. And so when I'm taken out of that by success or anything like that, it's a skill set that you have to develop in order to navigate that. Not to say that it's like it's just an occupational thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to sort of weigh that with how much you want to do it. The amount of times that I've thought to myself, is this worth it? Because in order to put forward ideas like the Moth or Ziltoid or any of these kind of strange ideas, much of the logistical work just goes into trying to convince people that in my financial world that this is something that's worth doing. Specifically when they say, well, what's your intent for doing this? How are you going to make money off this? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Like I just want to make a puppet show. Can we do it? They're like, well, you can make a puppet show if you do this tour, or you can make a puppet show if you know what I mean? And so I'll spend like $50,000 on a Ziltoid thing, which is insane.
Right.
And then make zero back from it. Like zero.
Right.
So you have to kind of just, but fortunately I've got a bunch of, tired people in my management world that are just like, oh, I guess we can put it out on a CD, or I guess we can do this, or we can maybe monetize it in some silly way or whatever. And I'm like, cool, whatever, as long as I can do it.
Right.
And then, and much to my surprise, that's been going on for 35 years now. Those poor people, man.
That's funny.
For real, though. I mean, as long as I can do it, and the wife and kids and parents or whatever are like not suffering, then yeah, that's my impetus to do it, man. Like that's it.
Right on.
And if it's like if it's like, oh, you spent all that money and no one watched it, I'm like, oh, that's right. Can we do another one? Maybe they'll watch that one.
Look at your screen right now. If you're tired of the hide-and-seek games with big tech, where links disappear and episodes get throttled, I've got the fix. I'm Chris Akin, and it's time for me to show you how to take back your access to the Classic Metal Show, the Seth Williams Show, and Chris Akin Presents. Pick up your phone, go to the App Store or Google Play, and download the Locals app. It is 100% free. Once you're in, just search for the CMS Network. You're going to see everything. Every interview, every unfiltered rant, every deep dive music discussion, every uncensored news article we put up, all in one centralized, uncensored hub. No more chasing links across 5 different socials. This is our home. But if you really want the keys to the kingdom, look for that VIP upgrade. For just $4.99 a month, you're cutting out the commercials, getting the advance drops before anyone else, and accessing bonus episodes that are way too heavy, dirty, or we just don't want to share with the free public. For the price of a cheap beer, you're supporting independent, unapologetic media. Download the Locals app today. Get some CMS wherever you are. And if you're a real one, join the VIP squad at classicmetalshow.locals.com. The Classic Metal Show and the CMS Network. It's uncensored. It's unapologetic. We will see you there. But as long, I'm assuming then what it really means is you need to purge it. If you don't purge it, then you don't. Then there's nothing to be gained if you don't purge what's in your creative mind.
Yeah, but there's also reasons why that creativity exists in such a way now. It's not in a vacuum. I think if I didn't have such a fantastic audience, and if I didn't have such a fantastic group of people that I work with, a lot of the ideas that I pursue just wouldn't exist. You know, it's like chicken and egg thing. I when I finished Moth, I went to Thailand for a couple of months, and I lived, $5 a day on a beach, and I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I could do this,
right?
Like I could do this for the rest of my the rest of my life. I could do this, right? And but then when I came back to the studio, and I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, that's fun. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we did that? Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's a cool idea. I hadn't thought of that. Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you're getting fired up about the creative momentum of it all. And when you start finding, at least when I start finding like loopholes in those creative gestures, that also include the emotional work that's gone into a certain period of time. Like music is it's like a solidified emotion in a way. Mm-hmm. And so as somebody who participates in that, I also participate in big emotions. Like I'm an emotional person, right?
Sure.
And I'll come back and have all these interesting ideas that just present themselves just by the nature of the job itself. And then I think, okay, well, we can take Ziltoid, and then we could adhere this. Like Ziltoid originally was not just like coffee drinking alien. It was like a way for me to deal with having a kid. Like we'd had children, and I was just like, whoa.
Right.
So I was like, well, maybe I can make a puppet and put my hair on it, and then he can become like a external representation of this weirdness that I'm feeling. And then just by making music about it and a show about it, I can sort of quantify this whole I'm so stupid, I'm just like an ape and I've just procreated thing. So, it's like they serve practical purposes, but in a lot of ways, in absence of the job, in absence of the audience, in absence of all of this, I wouldn't write a lot of this stuff, Right. I think I would just make ambient music, probably.
Oh, wow. So interesting. You would make ambient music, yet you've recorded some of the heaviest music in the history of heavy music. It's really, really wild.
Thank you. That's more of an indicator of sensitivity than it is like personality, in my estimation, because I had worked with some spent time with some really successful musicians in a bunch of different genres that for whatever reason saw me as a strange pet they wanted to hang out with for a while. And sometimes I would watch these people who are so much more aggressive and intense than I am. And I'm thinking, why isn't their music nearly as heavy as what I do? And I think it's because those of us who are heavy metal kids, essentially, it was a way to express intangible emotions that were just so big. And if you perceive the world as being everything's intense, everything is intense all the time. I used to say sometimes people I know of that level of sensitivity, it's like they need an award just for getting out of bed in the morning, So when you are wired to interpret your environment as either constantly a threat even, or constantly just like the intensity of it and going into public or having to go to a party or any of these things as being like work, then inevitably, I think the music's going to be fucking intense. You
Right.
know,
All right.
it's like that's all there is to it. It's like, and so the other side of the coin for me is a project I do called Dream Piece,
Hmm.
which is ambient music for sleeping and for children. And I did 14 episodes of an infant, like a toddler's show on the BBC in the UK about um, the emotional energy of colors. So, and I remember the people at the BBC going to bat for me because other people there had heard strapping and they'd heard Ziltoid and all these things. They were just like, oh, I don't know if this guy's appropriate for kids. But then when they were listening to Hummer or Snuggles or Dream Piece, they're like, oh, yeah, no, that's exactly what we want. So I would suggest that my tendency to create these disparate emotional expressions is much more of an indicator of just being sensitive than it is being like a sociopath, right?
Right on. Well, Devin, let's get into the Moth here before we run out of time. I'm going to admit to you openly, I have not had enough time to fully digest it. I only got it 2 days ago, and I've
Good
listened
luck,
to it
man.
about 4 times, and that's nowhere near enough to map out what's going on here. So I'll just ask that question simply. What's going on here?
It's a. I always look at the work that I do as like an essay that you write at the end of a period of emotional growth or sometimes repression, right, or recession. Um, the last few years has been difficult by anybody's standards.
Sure.
On a personal level, without getting too deeply into it, I went through a bunch of things recently as well over the past couple of years that were just, frankly, there were some moments where I didn't think I was coming back from it.
Hmm.
And the work that comes into quantifying one's darkness or one's shadow, I would rather say, is not gentle. And when I talk about darkness, I don't mean like a murderous intent. I think the darkness can be the fear of oneself. In my case, and this is probably the best way to describe it, I think I've been a people pleaser based on just trying to avoid, irrational, emotional things from caregivers when I was younger or what have you. It's no fault of anybody's. I just ended up becoming like I didn't know myself for many years, and then when I got really angry in my early 20s and strapping started presenting itself, I was convinced that this wasn't like a part of me. I was convinced it was like some sort of an aberration, like, whether or not it was like drugs or circumstance or anything like, but this is clearly not my real nature. But then as I started getting older, I started recognizing how much of my real nature had been trained to fear anger or to fear conflict or to fear my own reactions to it. If I interpret anger as not just a human emotion, or even one step further, if I interpret the anger and the fear in myself as being something other than a wounded child trying to protect me from those same circumstances, then I'm always going to try and quell that voice. During the last couple of years, when things got so difficult in my personal life, I was all of a sudden thrust into a scenario where I couldn't run from it. I couldn't, any extracurricular activities just amplified it. It didn't like silence it, didn't make it go away. There was no running from it.
Hmm.
And then as a result of that, I just found myself in a situation where I had to deal with it. And the process of dealing with it was one of finding compassion for myself, finding love for the part of me that for so many years I had thought of as being an aberration or thought of as being fundamentally flawed, as opposed to just traumatized. So the nature of the Moth as a project is just a musical overview of the process of the recognition of the ways that our actions are no longer serving us as individuals, and then the tenacity to to work through it, not only for your own sake, but for the sake of the people around you. When I was younger, I used to rely on platitudes to think that would work. Like, oh, you just have to think positive, or, you know, any of these things. But it wasn't until I was sort of confronted with my own fears and my own darkness in a very tangible way that I was like, that's not an option.
Mm-hmm.
The option here is the fastest way out of this is through it. And so Moth is a musical representation of that process, which is why the cover is what it is. You know, I just put my face on it because I didn't want it to be, you know, you can't hide from it. You can't hide from yourself, right? That being said, I did it and I got through it, and now I'm working on something else.
Look, everybody, I have spent 30 years in the loudest rooms in the world, and I can tell you one thing for certain. I've got zero time for weak coffee or woke nonsense. Guess that's actually two things I don't care. If you're like me, you're tired of giving up your money to corporate sellouts who hate your values. You want a brew that's as unapologetic as a Marshall stack cranked to 11. Enter Blackout Coffee. This is bold, fresh roasted, 100% American grit in a cup. It's fuel for patriots who refuse to back down. Whether you're hitting the Patriot medium roast or the massive high caffeine kick of brutal awakening, this is the taste of real freedom and hard-hitting flavor. Stop supporting the bland beans of companies that don't stand for you. Head over to blackoutcoffee.com right now. Use my code, which is in the description, for an exclusive discount. You can save. It's time to wake up unstoppable. Blackout Coffee, folks. Fuel for patriots. Get yours now. Well, let me ask you this based on what you're saying here. And, you know, it sounds to me like you're really in a state today of emotional transformation, you know, really figuring yourself out, looking at it that way. And if I'm wrong, just say you're wrong. But obviously,
well, I don't know about today. I would just say, before you ask your question, okay, I think that part of the process is maybe a few months back.
Okay, fair enough. So where does that leave you looking at everything before it? Do you look at it as stepping up? Do you look at it as mistakes that you've made that got you to where you are now, where it's maybe you're more comfortable? I mean, where do you see it as a human being more than as a, you know, creative guy?
I look at it the same way as I look at tattoos. You know, like I had done an interview the other day where we were talking about tattoos, and fortunately, when I got all my shitty tattoos, I was proactive in being able to have them in places that I could hide.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I didn't put a big fish on my forearm like I was tempted to do when I was 18 or whatever. But I went to a retreat in Thailand, and they had a hot springs, and there was like 27 of us at this meditation retreat, and we go to the hot springs, and you know, you're in your swimming trunks, and all of a sudden, you know, you take your shirt off. It looks like a kid drew on you when you fell asleep, right? And I remember this one guy there was just like, man, don't you regret those? And my answer to that was, at the time when I got those tattoos, it was really important to me, other than one or two shitty ones. But you know what I mean? Like, in general, it was at the time I was so in need of like a tangible representation of where I was at in my life that getting a tattoo seemed like this was like a very important step to me. So when he asked me if I was ashamed of it, I was like, no, because I'm happy with myself now. And in absence of those decisions that I made in the past, I wouldn't find myself here now.
Right.
So I don't want to cover them. I don't want to apologize for them. I don't want to be ashamed of them, because that's where I was at. And that's how I view the records from the past.
Okay. With the Moth, and it's always hard. I'm gonna be honest. I've interviewed you, I think, 8 times or something at this point, and it's always hard to figure out. Like, you're not. I don't even know how to put this. Most musicians that I interview, it's like watching them ride a roller coaster. You know what I mean? You can kind of go from record to record and see where they're going. You know, and sure, they go high and then they come down and then they go back up.
Yeah.
I see you as being on a roller coaster that's still being built every time you get into a studio. Like it's half built and somebody's got to hurry up and put the pieces together or it
Yeah.
might all fall apart.
Yeah,
Where,
you know what? I think maybe I'm at a point now where I'm just no, that's not true. I was going to say something, but I just vetted the thought, and it's like, no, that's not true. Um, yes, I think is the answer to that. But and that's actually a really good description of it. It's like a constant roller coaster that's not finished yet. But I mean, I'd argue that that's most of us, isn't it? Like, I don't think my sister's any different. I don't think my buddies are any different. I think the state of the world right now makes it such that anybody who claims they've got a finished roller coaster that they're on is probably, like Princess Bride style trying to sell you something, right? So I, uh, I would say that yes, that's a good example or a good explanation of the process, and I would like to take an attempt at describing it myself. Um, I think it's less of a roller coaster for me and more of just an elevator.
okay.
And I'm trying to find the floor where the quiet stuff is. And so it's a huge building, and no one told me what floor it was on. So I just keep hitting buttons, and then when I explore the floor that I end up on, sometimes it's brutal.
Right. Right. Well, and I just to build on that a little bit, I do want to disagree with you slightly where you said that you think everybody is that way. I'm going to say in your field, in the music field, I think everybody's not that way. I think it's the other way. I think it's
Really? Okay.
yeah, I did, and I'll tell
Okay.
you why, and then you tell
Please.
me I'm wrong.
No.
I think most people are exploring their options and exploring their creativity, etc., until they find what makes them successful. And then when they find what makes them successful in the music world, then they stop trying to expand. You don't see, I'm using an obvious example,
Interesting.
but I'll use
No, I like it.
AC/DC as a very obvious example.
Yeah.
If you listen to the first couple records, they were a little different here and there. Then they found what hit and they've never changed since.
Okay. If I may push back slightly on this as
Please,
well.
please.
I've always been envious of bands like that because the people that I know in bands like that don't seem their motivation to continue doing it is to refine it rather than to just rest on their laurels. I'll give an example of that. It was Meshuggah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they've been buddies for many years and know them personally, and they love it. It's not like they found a style and because it's been commercially viable, they've stopped there. And I feel I've always put Meshuggah and AC/DC in the same category because I love them both, actually.
Sure.
But it's a refinement of something that they've landed on, which is what they were looking for in the beginning. And I was always really envious of that because that never happened to me. There was
Right.
never a moment that I landed on something. And even when people said, if you continue on this road, you will find financial security, strapping, ocean machine, whatever, right? The reason for me changing was not because I was trying to be provocative. It's just because that's how I am. Like, I just sat down to say, okay, this is going to be financially and, like successful on numerous levels. Let me do that again. Unlike AC/DC or Meshuggah, maybe, I couldn't find anything within that framework that was intriguing enough to make another variant of it for me.
Right. Okay.
And every time I did hear an AC/DC song that I loved, even as it did progress in something that you could be arguably saying it's got a formula that is following, I was psyched. I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's what I love that they're AC/DC. When I hear the new Meshuggah stuff, I'm like, I love that they're Meshuggah because then I can rely on the fact that they've got a group of people that are mining that identity in such a way that there's infinite regrowth and renewal within that. That's just my perspective as well, and you may disagree with that as well. But
No. I mean, it's your perspective. I mean, how am I going to disagree with how you see it? That's your.
As my wife does.
She's allowed. You bought that ticket, man.
That's true.
Well, a ticket I'm going to buy, man, is a ticket to purchase The Moth. It's a fantastic release. I suggest everybody gets it. It's May 29th is the date that it actually hits for people to get it. And Devin, we tell everybody here on this show, if you're going to listen to it on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, fine, give it a listen, whatever, but buy something. Go to wherever and buy a vinyl, buy a shirt, buy a whatever there is to buy. Where is the best place for us to send people to buy The Moth?
Oh my God, I don't know.
Amazon, or is there a website or
I think DevinTownsend.com has stuff, but I've not been there in years. I think we have a Patreon, which I think is DVN Townsend. I'm not sure. But honestly, I'm kind of I'm just like, listen, just as long as you hear it, like you don't have to buy anything. I mean, I think the gesture that the audience makes to support what I do with like T-shirts or whatever we make, all these, like beer cozies or whatever, all the merch stuff is a gesture more so than an obligation. So if you feel like making a gesture towards allowing me to keep making this, absurd stuff for as long as I'm able, I would absolutely appreciate that support. And I think my name online will yield a place that will probably sell you something, but I just don't know, buddy. I'm sorry.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. Well, buy it wherever you see it available.
And if
How's
you do,
that?
I appreciate it. I mean, I don't take it for granted. I can't continue doing what I do without it, but I'm so removed from that part of the work that I just,
Mm-hmm. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, one more time, everybody. The album is The Moth. It is Devin Townsend. And Devin, this is always fun, man. Thanks for joining me here on Chris
You too, brother. And thank you so much for the constant support over the years.
Step back into time and flip into fun at Pinball PA, the ultimate arcade and museum where classic games come alive. Located off Broadhead Road in the Hopewell Shopping Center, Pinball PA invites you to play with 400 pinball machines and video games, from rare gems to your all-time favorites like Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Asteroids, Frogger, and the latest pinball hits. Perfect for families, friends, field trips, birthdays, and gamers of all ages, Pinball PA is open Tuesdays through Sundays with unlimited play for one low price. No quarters needed. Learn more at pinballpa.com.